Hello everyone, I'm George Taylor from ImagiNERDing, and on this episode, we're going to talk about EPCOT Master Plan 5. EPCOT Center Master Plan 5 isn't the name of the best Disney cover band in the world, but it could be. Back in the 1970s, Donn Tatum, who was the chairman, and Card Walker, who was the CEO of Walt Disney Productions, had been fielding questions from the media, Florida legislature, and cast members about Walt's dream of the futuristic city.
I'm Card Walker, president of Walt Disney Productions, and I'd like to answer a question that's been asked many times about EPCOT. Why is Disney getting into so many things that are apparently unrelated to the entertainment industry? What can Disney possibly contribute?
Based on press releases, speeches, and letters to the cast members, Card was very much thinking about EPCOT Center and trying to find a way of appeasing everyone without actually building a city. We'll never really know if Card and Donn wanted to build a city, but most histories and discussions about that time period show that Walt Disney Productions knew that building a city of the future would be near impossible. The 1977 annual report for Walt Disney Productions featured a large section on EPCOT Center, specifically Master Plan 5, with illustrations and accompanying descriptive text. Disneyland was built from Master Plan 67, and Walt Disney World was built from Master Plan 17. Obviously, they got much quicker at the planning process, or better at making master plans. I've seen all of these images outside of the 1977 annual report, but not in this configuration. The 11 images presented are quite tantalizing and will offer clues to those of us from the future. Some images offer a clear lineage, while others might have you scratching your head. The following is a quote from the 1977 annual report. As conceived here, EPCOT will be a showcase for prototype concepts, demonstrating practical applications of new ideas and systems from creative centers everywhere. It will provide an ongoing forum from the future where the best thinking of industry, government, and academia is exchanged to communicate practical solutions to the needs of the world community. It will be a communicator to the world, utilizing the growing spectrum of information transfer to bring new knowledge to the public. Finally, EPCOT will be a permanent international people-to-people exchange, advancing the cause of world understanding. It's obvious that Master Plan 5 is very close to what we see today. Future World is located near the bottom of the figure 8 shape, and World Showcase is near the top. 6 pavilions ring the Communicore and Spaceship Earth, with the World Showcase pavilions doing 2 odd half circles around an oddly shaped lagoon. Spaceship Earth. This solid gold view of Spaceship Earth seems like it's coming from the United States building, with the eaves of Communicore encircling it. You can see the small globes with people sitting in them. I would hazard a guess that they are locations for the World Key kiosks, in which guests could interact with a computer to learn about EPCOT Center and plan their day. Of course, it wasn't the World Key that we saw during the first years of EPCOT Center. In the 1970s, computers were still very misunderstood and not as ubiquitous. Spaceship Earth is described as being a journey through time to trace man's progress and developments. No mentions of the Phoenicians just yet. Spaceship Earth is the major theme show and introduction to the concept and meaning of EPCOT, focusing on the relationship between communications and humankind's continuing dynamic survival. It is an optimistic statement recognizing our enormous challenges and concluding strongly that creative men and women of the world can develop a viable instruction book for Spaceship Earth. Central to the meaning of the show is the fact that access to accurate and relevant information and the continuing ability to create new and better tools for survival have been the real dynamic of our voyage aboard Spaceship Earth. The Disney staff is creating an exciting and unique theatrical experience for the dramatic spherical structure which will dominate the entrance to EPCOT Center. A time machine journey into the past to trace man's progress as he acquires and utilizes new knowledge. Surging forward through time, guests will see historical milestones unfold as man records, communicates more broadly, and finally uses computer technology to process ever-increasing amounts of information. As the Spaceship Earth show concludes, the audience is invited to go forth into Epcot's future world, into the many pavilions offering dramatic new vistas, into vitally important topics affecting the future of humankind. Communicore. The communications core of EPCOT Center is where you'll be able to find video information you'll access in the future, planning for future vacations, planning for a future career, and a casino of information. The cutaway image we're presented with shows lots of multi-tiered shows and exhibits. Communicore had some pretty lofty goals that simply couldn't be met at the time or had fallen out of favor by the designers. Some of the concepts simply didn't make sense 5 years later, or now. As its name suggests, this global marketplace of new ideas will be the communications core of EPCOT Center. Here, industry and the public will participate in a hands-on exchange of new and exciting ideas, systems, products, and technologies. Some of the beginning concepts for this information marketplace include TellStore, a future world video bookstore where guests could experience firsthand the newly emerging world of video information for the home. Future World Travelport, an electronic travel port where visitors could dial in their travel interests and other itinerary requirements and watch an instant preview of their upcoming vacation. Future Plan, a career center concept where immediate information would be offered about careers for young people and the newly developing field of second careers for retiring citizens. Informat Arcade, a concept providing new experiences for the public in information retrieval, which would include a casino of information in game-playing format, taking the penny arcade of the past into the information age. Other ideas for the Communicore will be developed by joint task forces of Disney designers and industry participants. It may include such things as the Good Health Emporium, the Drugstore of Tomorrow, and the Future World Office, a paperless place of business. The drugstore of the future? Well, I wonder if there was any thought of being able to print your own medicine, like with a 3D printer. And even after almost more than 40 years, we are still chasing the paperless office. The TellStore is an interesting concept, especially since it was hawking a way of learning at home via videos. And when television was promoted, there was always the thought that people would be able to learn from home. Of course, you can finally learn at home or anywhere by watching videos on the internet. Heading over to Future World East, the left side, we run into 3 pavilions. Life and Health. The artwork is for the signature attraction in the Life and Health Pavilion entitled The Life Within. An obvious precursor to Body Wars, this version of the attraction looks more like a dark ride than a high-intensity motion simulator. It would take 10 years to see the Wonders of Life Pavilion, and it would be the first EPCOT Center pavilion under the Eisner era. It seems like it's been a pavilion that had a hard time being more than a science museum. Visitors to the Life and Health Pavilion will experience a new awareness and appreciation of themselves. The Joy of Living, a multimedia show, will extol the beauty, the dignity, and the strength of man from birth to the golden years. The Incredible Journey Within will take guests to explore the inner workings of the fascinating, complex human machine. Along the great midway of life, they'll participate in whimsical series of experiences, learning that good health is based, more than anything else, on their own personal responsibility and behavior. The Land. Yes, this looks an awful lot like Tony Baxter's design for Journey into Imagination. The glass structures would have represented different biomes, and there was a Professor Marvel character, that breed of dragons of course, that Baxter created who would morph into the Dreamfinder and Figment. The Land Pavilion went through a few changes before settling on the 1982 incarnation, which was driven largely by the first corporate sponsor, Kraft Foods. A few of the ideas set forth by the lead designers, including Tony Baxter, would heavily influence the Imagination Pavilion. The Land Pavilion will graphically illustrate man's role as a protector of this finite resource, as well as his alternatives and choices in maintaining and even enhancing the delicate balance within the natural environment. Through a variety of exciting and informative shows and experiences, guests will be introduced to the basic concepts essential for understanding the need for harmony between man and his home on the land. Transportation. Much more nebulous than the world of motion, all about cars and General Motors, the Transportation Pavilion seems like a cross between Horizons and Futurama 1 and Futurama 2 from the 2 New York World's Fairs, also sponsored by General Motors. From the onset, the Transportation Pavilion doesn't look like the World of Motion until you look at the details. The track on the lower left looks like the part of the ride that started at the bottom of the World of Motion and entered the ride building on the second floor. It also shadows the circular design of the wheel-like final design. The Transportation Pavilion will show how man has progressed through time in direct relation to his ability to move from one location to another. Visitors will see man's earliest and most humble designs grow and change as he reaches out to explore the world around him. They'll be treated to simulated trips aboard some of today's modes of transportation and have a glimpse at future transportation systems, including a hands-on involvement with working prototypes of tomorrow's vehicles. Let's head over to Future World West. Space. Old ideas never die at Imagineering. Granted, Mission Space is a far cry from this concept, but it's probably a more realistic experience. And I'm assuming the Space Pavilion would have been an IMAX screen with moving seats, almost a cross between Soarin' and a Circle Vision film. Probably one of the most complex pavilions, space would be shelved in order to create Horizons and would ultimately replace one of the most beloved EPCOT Center attractions. Still, it's hard to think of a pavilion on the scale of the proposed Space Pavilion. A huge interstellar space vehicle will transport passengers to the outer frontiers of the universe, highlighting man's efforts to reach out for the stars around him, from the early pioneers who looked and wondered, to modern-day space travelers and their triumphs, to the challenges and possibilities of future space technology and exploration. The sea. This concept looks a lot closer to what we actually got, except for the sea base not being in the center of a giant aquarium. Being enclosed in an undersea base inside a giant aquarium really doesn't appeal to me, since there have been quite a few films and television shows based on this premise. Something always goes wrong. This would have been a fairly massive pavilion with a lot to do. Many of the concepts made it, including the restaurant. Guests will board the clipper ship Spirit of Mankind to sail through moments of peril and triumph with 7 legendary mariners, the great explorers who charted the seas for civilization. In another adventure, Poseidon the Sea Lord will challenge visitors to journey through the ocean's depths, from the continental shelf to the Great Coral Reef. Finally, arriving at Sea Base Alpha, guests will experience an authentic ocean environment with live marina life, an undersea restaurant, and a showcase of oceanographic exhibits and displays. Energy. Still focusing on fossil fuels and leading the future of world energy, the Energy Pavilion seems like it was well developed at this point, minus the corporate overtones from Exxon. I wonder if the image shows the moving theater or if it's just auditorium-style seating. Even from the outside, the Energy Pavilion will be a strong visual statement as it generates power via its own solar energy systems. Here, the formation of fossil fuel energy will be portrayed, climaxed by a sudden energy storm of wind, lightning, rain, fire, and volcanic eruptions, demonstrating the almost endless potential of raw energy available for man. Then visitors will see man overcoming the major crises of the past, and finally the choices he must consider today, racing against the clock in a search for new energy, and finally harnessing tomorrow's vast new sources for the future world of energy. The American Adventure. It's labeled as USA on Master Plan 5, designed as the gateway to the rest of world showcase and to introduce America as the host country. The following quote is from Herman Melville and was used as the basis for the American Adventure. America has been settled by the people of all nations. All nations may claim her for their own. We are not a narrow tribe of men. No, our blood is as the flood of the Amazon, made up of 1,000 noble currents all pouring into one. We are not a nation so much as a world. World Showcase. Noted as the major theme area of World Showcase, this image is a considerable departure from previous incarnations. Instead of the shopping center style type environment, we start to see a look at the culture of world architecture. Master Plan 5 is touted as the first time we see Future World and World Showcase together. It's also the first time that we lose the cold, antiseptic version of World Showcase that felt more like a shopping mall, and we begin to see what we have today. Sam McKinn's illustrations of World Showcase pavilions provided more of a real-life look at the countries and included landmarks and heavily landscaped features. Ultimately, World Showcase would thrive as a concise and romanticized version of the countries. In prior years, we have reported extensively on our concepts for the pavilions and exhibits of World Showcase. During this year, WED Imagineers working with potential participating nations have continued to refine these concepts, creating many new renderings and models, some of which are shown here. In 1977, we have also developed an exciting new concept for the overall design of World Showcase, which we are pleased to present publicly for the first time. In this new interfacing design concept, countries from around the world will stand side by side in friendship along the banks of a broad lagoon, symbolic of the waters that bind together the diversified peoples of the world. A community of nations. World Showcase will be the first permanent international exposition of its kind anywhere, communicating the culture, history, tourism, and accomplishments of each participating country. Here, guests will visit a wide variety of exciting shows and ride through attractions, restaurants, and shopping streets unique to the individual nations and other areas presenting travel and products of industry. EPCOT Center's World Showcase is a true people-to-people concept. Participating nations will be invited to send their outstanding young adults to operate the attractions, shops, restaurants, and exhibits of their pavilion. And these young people will not only work together, they will also live, play, and learn together. Many of these young adults will be future leaders in their countries. Their association and work experience in EPCOT Center could be a significant step toward generating greater understanding among the peoples of the world. New design concept. The World Showcase will feature side-by-side pavilions along the shores of the waters of the world. The many models and renderings developed for potential participants in World Showcase include these concepts for Japan, the Arab world, Canada, and Germany. So after hearing these descriptions of the World Showcase pavilions provided by the Disney Annual Report, what do you think about the World Showcase that we saw in 1982? So what did you think about EPCOT Center Master Plan number 5? Gets a little bit closer to what we've seen today, right? Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can be updated whenever I release a new video, whether it's about theme park visits, theme park history like this one, or great Disney book reviews. I'm George Taylor from ImagiNERDing, and I hope to see you in the parks.